Welcome to the Debate Corner channel. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with future videos. The more comments received, the more videos will be made. Let's get started. Should the government be held liable for the influx of illegal immigrants? Today, we'll be looking at quite a few reasons as to why the government should be held liable for the disaster at the border. Does anyone remember a time when the border was literally guarded the exact same way as Jeffrey Epstein's prison cell? What about a time where if someone crossed the border illegally, America suddenly became a live segment of an Oprah show where the government let them in with open arms, basically saying, "You get benefits and you also get benefits. Everyone gets benefits and free housing." How about a time where someone would get tossed out of the United States after committing illegal acts, faster than a belligerent drunk harassing those at a bar? There are so many questions and none of them really answered. There is no middle ground in the border crisis. First, let me start this off with a few definitions. The definition of an immigrant is that of a person who comes to live permanently in a foreign country. The definition of illegal immigrants is considered the migration of people into a country in violation of that country's immigration laws. I'll just leave this here for now, and we'll come back to this point later on in the segment. My stance on the matter is simple. I am perfectly fine with immigrants who come over the legal way, get documented, have jobs, pay taxes, and be a productive part of society. However, I'm not okay with those that come to the United States illegally because of the corrupt politicians who bribe them to come here with benefits, houses, or any other promise they have made. Recently, a bill was vetoed in California that would have granted undocumented illegal immigrants home loans up to $150,000. Now, let that sink in for a second. Americans with horrible or little to no credit would be denied pretty much instantly for that amount of a loan. So, you're saying an illegal immigrant already has more rights in America than its own citizens trying to purchase the already way overpriced homes? I remember in my younger days trying to purchase a vehicle and simply needing a loan of $2,000 so I could be able to drive to and from work. With a vehicle and a job, I'd be able to pay off the loan easily. However, even for a $2,000 loan, I was rejected. Why? The bank couldn't find a credit history as it was my first purchase. So being illegal and undocumented suddenly now has its perks? Since when? The answer is simple. The current administration is making it extremely easy to get by with everything if you're illegal. To me, this is definitely not a flex on their behalf. Crimes are rapidly being committed in all the areas illegal immigrants have flocked or bused to in some situations. Then, after the arrests, many of them are released back into the public as if nothing was committed. The places from which they came are probably starting to become safer than here because Americans are getting tired of their way of living. Take New York, for example. They claimed they were some sort of sanctuary city. The first busload that arrived was in April of 2022. Over time, the city's resources drained, and the illegal immigrants trashed the place while also effectively taking over nearby luxury hotels. Illegal immigrants have taken over the city by storm. Shelters became full, and many were forced to sleep outside in a makeshift tent city. Within 6 months, Mayor Adams declared a state of emergency. Illegal immigrants that continued to flood in at the border ended up being sent to New York City by the busloads. Fast forward to April of 2023. Approximately 1 year later, Mayor Adams is accusing the national leaders of turning their backs on New York City. Then after that, he pulls out the race card against Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, saying he's sending illegal immigrants to New York City because he's black. This whole crisis is bringing out the worst of everyone and making Mayor Adams look immature for the current position he holds, even though it was his idea. I can tell you that this had nothing to do with race, but it all had everything to do with claiming to be a sanctuary city. So, with one example, what have we learned? It's not a good idea to have an open border. Everywhere you travel to has rules and regulations. It's common sense, which is something the current administration has a lack thereof. Coming here to litter the United States and drain all of the money that hardworking taxpayers have paid in is not the same as living the American dream. The United States needs to take care of its own that work hard to keep this country running before having any benefits given to anyone entering illegally. I think that everyone that came in illegally need to be deported. Period. If the border remains open, the United States will slowly but surely start to look like the countries that everyone came from. Also, in doing this, it'll show other countries that we can take control of situations not being overrun and taken advantage of with ease, making us look as weak as ever and the laughingstock of the world. If illegal immigrants put in the same amount of effort that it took to get here towards their own countries, they would have improved their own country and wouldn't have left. Moving on to something else that is very controversial, is the theory that the current administration is having them come over in droves due to the fact that they need votes in order to stay in power. However, even if they had that mindset, it wouldn't work. In order to vote, you must be able to provide documentation or some sort of identification in which these illegal immigrants do not possess. Depending on where you live, types of identification can be as follows: bank statements, utility bills, valid and non-expired photo identification, paycheck stubs, or a government document showing your proof of residence. The illegal immigrants do not have any of these, especially considering they are undocumented and homeless. With them living in parks, hotels, and even schools only proves they don't have any proof of residence. They don't have jobs, but instead, like in New York City, they were given debit cards funded by taxpayer money so they could have money for food and basic essentials. Given the simple fact they aren't even United States citizens, they're not even allowed to vote for a federal election. So, if the current administration wanted them to be able to vote them back into office, they have no way in doing so. Instead, having the illegal immigrants come into America, it only caused separation and divided American citizens further away from the government. Let's go back to the main question of this video. Should the government be held liable for the influx of illegal immigrants? Absolutely, and for multiple reasons. Every person that has come in and have committed crimes only to be released shall be punished, as well as the ones that released them. I encourage everyone to look up and research 8 U.S. Code 1324 of the federal law. In fact, I'll even provide a link below. 8 U.S. Code 1324 is a federal law that prohibits bringing in and harboring illegal immigrants. The current administration is bringing them over knowing this federal law exists, and yet they should also know that they are in violation of it. Penalties for violating this law can land them in prison. In the same federal law, it specifically states that it makes it an offense for any person who encourages or induces an alien to come to, enter, or reside in the United States, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that such coming to, entry, or residence is or will be in violation of law. Also, if the current administration is trying to have them as voters, that too is punishable by law. It states in the same document that domestic transportation, harboring, encouraging, inducing, or aiding and abetting, the basic statutory maximum term of imprisonment is 5 years, unless the offense was committed for commercial advantage or private financial gain, in which case the maximum term of imprisonment is 10 years. If the illegal immigrants that they helped get here commits any crimes, the violations become even harsher. Looking at it that way, how many have committed crimes and have been released back onto the streets without prosecution? I'm surely not the only one that feels as if they are taking an inch and stretching it for miles trying to see just how much they can get away with. It also seems that the closer it is getting to election time, the more chaos they're creating along the way, because they know deep down they won't be re-elected after their political stunts, which will make the newly elected president walk into a disaster zone on day one. The current Democrat that announced she is running for president has contributed to the current destruction and breakdown of everything going on around us, from bad economy, illegal immigration crisis, open borders, you name it. With her stating that she is going to fix everything on day one, makes me wonder two things. If she is going to fix things, does that mean everything that has happened she didn't agree with? Or does she mean she wants to continue digging the hole even deeper than it already is? I believe it's just another political lie to get more votes headed her way. Either way, I believe she is a wolf at the podium promising all of the sheep in the crowd that she will turn vegan if elected. If you've made it this far in the video, I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy day to hear my thoughts on the issues at hand. I try to remain unbiased towards many issues, But some things that are going on seem to be deliberate actions without repercussions. If it were you or I doing anything mentioned above, we'd be behind bars, and they'd throw away the key. I could go on record for believing that the current administration is actively committing treason, but call everything they do something else to avoid that label at all costs. I mean, they wouldn't want their reputation to be tarnished or ruined, right? From flooding the United States with illegals and calling it the American dream, to aiding and abetting them in specific locations, calling them sanctuary cities. Sorry, but there is no such thing as a sanctuary city. This isn't a game of tag where if they touch base or go to these so-called sanctuary cities, they are considered safe. Guaranteed, if we were to try to do what they are doing to us, except in their country, we would more than likely disappear and never be heard from again, or be captured and traded for war criminals. They need to be deported to which they came. High prices need to become affordable again. Housing needs lower pricing as well as the interest rates that come along with it. And taxes definitely need to be reduced for the hardworking families that pay them. So many things have to be done to this country in order to be the best that it's ever been. We, the people, need them to realize that any crimes or murders by the illegal immigrants that have been committed and overlooked by the government is blood on their hands. They need to be held accountable for everything they've caused, and until then, nothing is going to change. As an old proverb once said, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So what are your thoughts on this? Please let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.